Good morning. I am so happy to be here with everyone. Kristen and I worked together to put this workshop together, engaging green businesses in your communities. We have so many cities that are really doing some great work with their businesses in very different ways. So super excited to kind of share kind of a plethora of different ways to do that work. Just like everything else in Green Step Cities, it's not cookie cutter. You do things that, make sense for your community. And so we like to start, we did the icebreaker question with the poll. Thank you for playing. We appreciate that. So we're going to do some random Zoom breakout rooms of 5 people each. And the question is, what have you done to engage businesses related to sustainability in your community? So that is the question. Obviously introduce yourself. That's important. And so we're going to pop into some random breakout groups to do some introductions. So welcome again. I'm Diana McEwen. I direct the Metro Region of CERTS at the Great Plains Institute. Fun fact, I actually am responsible for starting Green Step City workshops way back when. One year we had 1, and then we had 3, and then we had 5, and now we do a whole series. So you can blame me. Thank you for the heart. So super excited because I have not been as involved lately, and got to work with Kristen to help put together this agenda. And there's so many great cities doing sustainability work with their businesses. So super happy that people were really willing to step up and present today. So from Coon Rapids, we have Olivia. From Stillwater, Wendy Gorski. St. Louis Park, Annie's going to speak. From the Minneapolis Green Cost Share Program, Patrick. And Minneapolis is not a Green Step City, but this program is so awesome that we really wanted to share with people, hoping that cities could maybe take a little piece of it. You might not be able to do it like they do it, but you might be able to take some elements from it. And there's some great stuff that St. Louis Park is doing related to that. And then MnTAP, also Gabrielle. So then we'll have question and answer. So we have a lot of presenters, some great, and again, each city has some different stuff going on. So it's really interesting to see kind of how you can be creative in a different way, whatever works for your city. So that is the agenda. And I think we'll just kind of kick it off and turn it over to Olivia, who is going to start us. Thank you, Olivia, for being here.
Thank you for having me. As Diana said, my name is Olivia Dorow Hovland, and I am the sustainability planner for the city of Coon Rapids. I have been with the city for about a year, but Coon Rapids has been doing really great work in the sustainability space for over a decade at this point. So we've had a sustainability commission since 2010, and they have been the driving force behind things like our native plantings ordinance, backyard chickens, and the community sustainability partnership, which is what I am going to talk about today. So while I was not the mastermind behind the CSP, I will do my best to tell you about how the program came to be and what we have learned from it. Next slide. So the Community Sustainability Partnership is a rating and recognition program for local Coon Rapids organizations and businesses meant to prompt them to operate more sustainably. So it is structured in a similar way to other sort of rating and recognition programs like SoulSmart or Green Step, in that the business reports on which sustainability best practices they do, and then the city rates their performance and awards them with a certain level of achievement based on their actions. Next slide. So the CSP, as I mentioned, is the brainchild of our Sustainability Commission, and this program has been around since 2018. The Sustainability Commission's work includes brainstorming the list of best practices for businesses and reviewing the applications from businesses as they come in and certifying the achievement and awarding the level to those businesses. City staff is responsible for the communications and publicity side of things. So we run the web page, we collate the applications as they come in, and have done some targeted outreach to businesses to solicit participation. Next slide. The overarching purpose of the CSP is to educate our local business owners to try and move the needle on sustainability and to grow relationships between the city and our local businesses. We want our business owners to know that Coon Rapids cares about sustainability and that going green can be easy and accessible. And we wanted this program to make a difference in a few different areas. Next slide. So the identified priority areas for this project are waste and recycling, energy, transportation, community, and purchasing. So the Sustainability Commission brainstormed best practice actions in each of these areas and compiled a resource page for businesses on different people they could contact for assistance or different, recyclers that could handle specialized things that they want to get rid of, all of that. And the best practices include things like composting organic waste, recycling oil and electronics, purchasing locally and in bulk, having an energy audit done, installing bike racks, and training employees on sustainability. The complete list does a good job at showing that there are many large and small ways that businesses can shift to operating more sustainably. And it is our hope that this list provides inspiration and can also be a benchmark against which businesses can measure their operations. So, here is a list of everything that we could possibly do. How do we measure up how much of what is possible are we actually doing and what could we do more of? In order to apply for recognition, businesses do have to go through every best practice and indicate whether or not they follow it. So it is a good way to get that big picture view. Next slide. A big piece of the program ends up being communicating with business owners and residents to raise awareness. We have a web page dedicated to the CSP program that contains the list of sustainability best practices and a list of what businesses are current program participants, so they have a solid presence on the web page after they have committed to the program. We also publicize participating businesses in our printed community newsletter, which is a coveted spot because every household in Coon Rapids gets a copy of this newsletter. And so it's great advertising for our businesses. And then we do have a sustainability specific e-newsletter that contains monthly resources for residents and businesses as well. Next slide. So communication, as far as the results of this program goes, communication has been one of the big successes of the program. We communicate in many venues and have strong messaging. And then as far as other results go, we have had lots of interest from faith communities. That sort of volunteerism that is present there has resulted in some really great participation from them. And they have been some of the pioneers in the program, some of the first people to participate. We have had other businesses participate as well, thanks to some high touch outreach that city staff have done in the past, those personal emails and door knocking and things like that to get people to sign up. Spontaneous participation, so people just sort of finding out about the program and signing up and wanting to participate, is pretty low. But when businesses are directly contacted, they are interested. Some of the sort of learning points of the program has been that the reporting process that we currently require for the program is pretty time intensive. The list of best practices is long. And so it's a lot of work to try and figure out if your company has LEDs in all of its lighting fixtures, or if if you recycle printer cartridges, a lot of these actions in any given business can be decentralized. And so it's not just a matter of having one champion at your business. You need to have a sustainability culture that everyone is involved in, and that can help make some of this information a lot easier to find for the given employee that is charged with filling out the survey about what they do or do not do. We also do not have any dedicated money for this program, so we don't have any reward or financial support that we can give to businesses to make some of the switches that might be more expensive. And so that is not as helpful if there are big roadblocks that the businesses come up against when they start to think about making sustainable switches. So in the future, the things that I am looking forward to are, I do have an interest in dedicating some money to incentivizing businesses in a specific sustainability area. So working with our sustainability commission to identify, a point of priority and doing some really targeted outreach along that line and seeing what results we can get. And then I'd also like to focus in on communicating more about one specific high impact action as well, and really doing an intensive educational outreach effort with that. I think a broader approach is really useful for building awareness. And then I'm also interested in seeing how a targeted approach can increase results. Next slide. So I think some of the other speakers lined up today are a good example of what that more targeted approach can look like. So as a good transition, I'll mention that, and then I'll also leave you with some of the current questions that I have. So how can businesses in Coon Rapids be engaged to make a large impact on the city's overall sustainability in a way that makes financial sense for them? And how can we move the culture of the city in a more sustainable direction? So I have lots of big questions. We have learned a lot from the Community Sustainability Partnership so far, and it has definitely helped us build momentum and gotten city staff on board, showed that the Sustainability Commission can be a good idea generator for the city, and that there is interest in continuing to increase the programming that we have in this area. So with that is all I have, and I am happy to take questions. I can't remember if we're doing them now or later, but that is where I'm at.
So this is Judy Babcock from the City of River Falls. As I said in my breakout room, I'm here at Wendy's invitation because I'm really interested in hearing this Sustainable Stillwater. But wow, great program, and relatively new, right? 2018.
Yes,
so,
yeah. So it's been around for just a few years.
Yeah, right before COVID kind of whacked you. So how did that affect you? The risks and communications related to COVID?
It definitely affected us. The city was not doing anything in person for quite a while, and a lot of our businesses were shut down. And then there was a gap in who was filling the sustainability role before me. So for the year of 2020, there was no one focusing specifically on work like the CSP. And so in the last year, I've been trying to figure out, what to prioritize and how to get other programs off the ground, and figure out how the CSP can sort of be renewed for another round of focus. So it is still something that is on my mind, but we definitely did lose some momentum with COVID and with sort of the time before I started with the city. Rebuilding phase.
Yeah, and we do have a time at the end for question and answer and open discussion, but we're ahead of schedule a little bit right now. So if there's some questions people have right now, me, Kristen, I'm from the hip, so I'm just gonna hop in and do what I do. So if folks have some specific questions, I actually remember when your predecessor was putting this together and reached out to me, and we gave them some resources, and it was really cool. And again, each city tries to figure out like what works in their community, and it's really cool to see what's been happening. And 2020, and I mean, I don't think
Just
we could
the
say
black
2020
hole.
anymore. We could say 2020 and 2021. Made it obviously a lot rougher for businesses. So other questions?
I have a question. Basically, I know you basically just said that you haven't been funded specifically for sustainability. That must be very frustrating. You must have like all sorts of ideas that you'd like to implement, right? To start getting the word out. What do you think is right now the most important challenge for you as you go forward trying to get the word out and implement this, other than money?
Yes, definitely. I think so I will say that since starting, the city has really demonstrated a priority towards sustainability. So in 2022, I actually do have some money to do something. So I have a new program that's going to kick off in the new year that I'm super excited about. And so thinking about that, I just want to show both our residents and business owners and our city council that putting money and effort towards sustainability is a good investment in the city's reputation, in the satisfaction and retention of our residents, in building trust with our business owners. So I really want to target high impact things that have really tangible results right now as I am building this program. So doing work that I can measure really easily and that will have a receptive and large audience is sort of what is top of mind for me right now. And then when it comes to specifically the CSP, I think I will be doing more work with our economic development coordinator in the future to figure out where exactly we can find business owners to communicate with them, how sustainability as a message can be integrated with a lot of our other economic development work in the city, and how to make a cohesive narrative in that area.
Awesome. Other questions?
Hi, this is Noelle. I work with the City of Roseville, and we're doing a similar thing with the Partners in Energy program. And I was curious how you identified businesses to target for this program, or did you just kind of have a few in mind and then kind of got referrals, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, so all of the specific business targeting was done before I started with the city, so I haven't done any additional work beyond that. And my understanding is that when that was happening at the time, it was a result of who has relationships where. So who does our sustainability commission know around the city, and who can they tap into, and who can our staff members specifically reach out to? And the referral process was part of that. So I think in the future, when we sort of renew the more targeted approach, I want to be more intentional about making sure that we're reaching out to a variety of businesses, going to some of our chamber meetings and things like that, so we get a representative sample of who is doing business in Coon Rapids.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Excuse me. How many businesses are currently in your directory?
Sure. So for businesses that we have currently certified, I think it's 8 to 10 that have participated and gone through the full process.
This is really exciting to hear. It's like a mini Green Step Cities program, but for businesses in Coon Rapids. I think you struggle, the questions that you brought up at the end are the same questions that we, struggle with as a program as well. And so there's a lot of, lessons to be learned. The general framework and idea is very similar. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Olivia. I'm dying to hear what your new program is that you're going to launch early in the year. Felt like you were keeping that under wraps, so we might have to talk later.
Yeah, 2022 going to be a big year.
Well, and I will say that I've watched the city of Coon Rapids for a long time, and there has been a lot of change and growth in the last couple of years in the sustainability interest in the community, including the city council and others. So it's great to see. Okay, so next we have my friend Wendy Gorski from Stillwater. And I'm so grateful. I actually, funny, I have a personal connection to this one as well. I was out in Stillwater in the summer of 2019, and we did this clean energy conversation with the community, and the state rep was there and the mayor was there, and we had this great conversation about what can we do on sustainability, and this idea of kind of green business or green business program came up, and we were kind of talking about what could we do with that. And then I really, I got a lot of work going on, and then this summer I got a email from Wendy about this program, and I was like, wow, they knocked it out of the park. So I'm really excited for you guys to see and hear what this volunteer community organization has put together for the city. That's incredible. So not to hype you, I'm your hype woman today. So super excited to have you here, Wendy, to share with folks the work you're doing, which is just so interesting. And Stillwater, again, with this volunteer crew, you've got a serious crew there. So I'll turn it over to Wendy to tell us what's going on in Stillwater.
Sounds good. Do I get to share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to click the little box with the arrow next to the leave button. Well, that's what it looks like for me, at least.
Yeah, my slides.
It's a white arrow next to the microphone, between the microphone and the leave button, up at the top in the top right corner. It's just a white or black arrow in a white box.
The right-hand side.
Right top. Usually that's where it is.
Sometimes it is on the left bottom.
Okay.
And Wendy's screen looks like my screen. The box is there next to the leave hang up button, but it's disabled. So a security, Kristen, might be that you need to enable her as a sharer.
Wendy is marked as a presenter, so it should.
Okay.
Oh, actually. Okay. No luck, Wendy? Not seeing it?
I don't know. I'm looking at my screen here. I'm not sure what I'm looking for, to tell you the truth.
It's just a white box with a black arrow. If you hover over the icons, just hover over the icons, and one should say, also it says Control-Shift-E.
Ooh, there you
also go. Try that.
So that seems okay. I've got a little like strip at the bottom which has the record. Is that what we're referring to?
Yeah, so there's icons. Hover over the icons, and one of them should say share content.
Open share tray.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Open share tray. Screen share. Yeah. Desktop window.
This Green Step City's technology team working for you here.
Choose what to share. All right, that's good. Window. Photos. Share. We need permission to share your screen.
Oh, why does it say
security and privacy, screen recording to give permission and start sharing.
That sounds beyond my control.
Do we have this? Do we have her slides
Sorry,
in
everyone.
The Google? Because you should just share them, Kristen, at this point.
Yeah, you know what I have are images of the slides. So it's going to be a little clunky, but I can do that. Let me get it pulled up here.
Let's see. maybe it's easier for me to try to figure this out.
Somebody is asking if you're using the app or the browser.
Oh, I'm using, it looks like a browser. Yeah, I'm using Chrome. Uh-huh. Well,
All right. Sorry, everyone. We can, yeah, sometimes it doesn't like the web version. And I think you're on a Mac as well, so that's probably not helping. But
well, maybe I can kind of think about this going through the app.
I've got an idea.
I have the slides.
Oh, you do?
You do? Okay. I was
Yeah.
gonna say we could switch and have Annie go right now as we figure this out.
Oh, that's true.
I'm here for you, Kristen.
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
Because yes, I have one thing to figure out.
Okay.
If that works.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So Annie, why don't you go ahead? So then, but Kristen, then you have her slides though, right?
Annie is sharing slides.
Oh, okay. Perfect. All right. Go ahead, Annie.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry, I should introduce Annie. So St. Louis Park, also doing some really, really great work, engaging businesses, some similarities to another program that you will see here in a bit. They have got, they were one of the first out of the gate with a climate action plan and have really thought through how to engage folks. So, I'm super excited to have Annie, who I'll just share with you is one of the newest members of the Metro Cert Steering Committee team. So very excited to have her there. But so St. Louis Park is going to share some of the work that they've been doing around the climate champions. So I'll turn it over to Annie.
Great. Thanks, Diana. Yes, I am a sustainability specialist at the City of St. Louis Park, and I have been at the city for almost 2 years now. And I will be talking a little bit about climate champions. But first, I wanted to give a little bit of background about our climate action plan that Diana referenced. So in 2018, the St. Louis Park City Council passed a climate action plan with the ambitious goal of achieving carbon neutrality or having a net zero carbon footprint by 2040. This plan provides guidance for residents, businesses, and the city on reducing greenhouse gas emissions and the impacts of climate change. The plan was created in partnership with members of the Environment and Sustainability Commission and the High School Environmental Club, Roots and Shoots. So the Climate Action Plan did show that emissions from buildings make up 58% of all greenhouse gas emissions in St. Louis Park. And so to try to get at those emissions, goals 1 and 2 of the city's Climate Action Plan called for reducing energy consumption in commercial buildings by 30% by 2030. So those 2030 goals will help achieve our ultimate 2040 goal of carbon neutrality. To get at that goal, we of course have a lot of messaging in the community around the business case for energy efficiency. Depending on what business we might be speaking to, that could be highlighting reducing energy bills, avoiding high equipment repair costs, increasing comfort and improving safety, both for employees and visitors to the business, and then decreasing carbon dioxide emissions. And so with these messages in mind, and to help achieve our CAP goals and make energy efficiency projects more accessible, affordable, and rewarding for businesses across the city, we created Climate Champions, and we officially launched the program earlier this year. So the program aims to help local businesses first understand their energy use, then navigate energy efficiency upgrades, pursue the various financing and rebates that are available, and get recognized for their efforts. And we have been collaborating with Xcel Energy, Centerpoint Energy, and the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce's Energy Smart program. So the first step is the business signs up. So they will actually contact me and I will collect their contact information, any energy concerns. So if they know that their electricity bills, their heating bills are high at certain times, or if they know that they want to complete an LED lighting project, I'll get down all those details. And then I will actually help schedule that visit with Energy Smart. And many of you may be already familiar with Energy Smart. They offer these energy assessments across the state, and businesses in St. Louis Park, before we kicked off Climate Champions, could just schedule with the Energy Smart team directly, but by funneling them through city staff first, this really helps us establish a relationship with the business and help them navigate through the entire Climate Champions process. So we're really trying to provide a little bit more support and understand more specifically what energy challenges our businesses might be experiencing. Next, that business will actually receive the Energy Smart assessment. And so at that visit, Energy Smart staff will review their energy use, talk to the business about their bills and what concerns they might have. They'll do a whole walkthrough of the building, and right there, they will recommend ways to reduce consumption and save money through either no or low cost strategies or equipment replacement. And assessments typically last an hour. And so I really try to emphasize that it should not be very disruptive, and the Energy Smart team is super flexible and have been able to work around different scheduling needs and personnel needs as well. We've also tried to emphasize that if business space is temporarily closed or if businesses are at limited capacity, now might actually be a really good time to conduct that energy assessment, because again, it won't be very disruptive, and if they might have less employees in the building right now, if they are doing an LED lighting project or a more intense project where employees might need to leave for a few days or a few hours or something like that, it's again a really good time when some employees might be remote or more of a flex schedule. After the assessment, that business will receive a report from Energy Smart detailing the visit, as well as a number of no or low interest loans, grants, and rebate opportunities to help them complete their recommended energy efficiency projects. So those might include the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce's Business Energy Efficiency Grant Program, Center for Energy and Environment Low Interest Loans, PACE financing. The City of St. Louis Park has some additional loans that are available for businesses to complete energy efficiency projects, a revolving loan fund, and information about the Climate Champions cost share. That leads us to our next key component of Climate Champions, which is that after completing that Energy Smart assessment, the business is eligible to apply for the Climate Champions cost share. And that cost share matches 50 or 75% of eligible utility rebates from Excel or CenterPoint. So some utility rebates that might be eligible include high efficiency HVAC, air sealing and insulation projects, LED lighting, and commercial refrigeration. And so there are a few different rates of the cost share. So there is a base rate, which is available to the majority of St. Louis Park property owners, which matches 50% of total eligible utility rebates up to $2,500 max. And then there's also an environmental justice rate. So if the property is located in Census Tract 223.02, which is this starred area on the screen here, the business is eligible for a 75% rebate match up to $3,500 max. So according to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, this is an environmental justice area, as at least 40% of people reported income less than 185% of the federal poverty level. And then we also have a benchmarking rate, which matches 75% of the total eligible utility rebate, again, up to $3,500 max. And that is available to any property in the City of St. Louis Park that fulfills the program eligibility criteria and is subject to and currently in compliance with our city's efficient building benchmarking ordinance, or the business can choose to participate in annual benchmarking voluntarily in perpetuity and also be eligible for that 75% match. So once the business applies, I process that application, and the application requires the Energy Smart report. So that is really fantastic for city staff to be able to look through, see what sort of things Energy Smart noticed, what challenges the business might be experiencing. The report also, or the application also needs to include the estimated project costs, estimated cost savings that will result from the project, estimated energy savings, and the estimated utility rebate. And the cost savings, energy savings, and utility rebate might need some additional context or help from the folks at Energy Smart, but they have been really great in helping businesses fill in the application as well. So they're not all on their own, have to enter in all these technical details. We've been able to help, and the energy advisors have helped as well. And then I will send a pre-approval email based on the eligibility. And then the business must send a copy of the final utility rebate and proof of final approved inspection, if applicable, to receive the cost share funds. And so we do pre-approve them based on those rates that I stated in the previous slide. But we make sure to highlight that if the estimated utility rebate differs from the actual utility rebate they received, their actual cost share fund might differ a little bit. So that might change slightly. Then the business will complete their project and get recognized. And so we will share a window cling, and this is a graphic representation of said cling that they can put up at their business. They will also be listed on the city's website and recognized in the quarterly park perspective newsletter that goes out to the whole community, similar to what Coon Rapids has. And there will also be opportunities for social media spotlights and case studies if that's something the business is interested in. And now I wanted to take a look at some of the results we've seen so far this year. So 20 businesses have received that Energy Smart assessment, and 7 have applied for the cost share. And I also wanted to share that we are continuing to reach our goals to sign businesses up for the assessments, but we have been running into some challenges with converting those assessment takers to actual cost share applicants. And I'll speak a little bit more about this in a few slides, but we believe this is largely due to COVID-19 impacts, of course, and split incentives between property owners and the business tenants that actually occupy the space. However, we do make sure to continue correspondences with the business that might have received the assessment to move them along in the process and offer support for when they might be ready to move forward with the project. So if it's not the right time right after they get the assessment, making sure that they know that this cost share program will be available next year as well, and that they will still be eligible to apply. And here's an overview of some of the different outreach techniques we've used to help get the word out. So I have contacted local contractors through the city project management database of contractors who might work on HVAC projects or lighting projects across the city. I've sent information to the Building Owners and Managers Association, as well as the International Facility Management Association. I've also presented to the St. Louis Park Business Council. I have shared information with the Walker Lake Business District in the city. I've also sent out postcards to every business in the city, and we make sure to send flyers with Energy Smart that detail the Climate Champions program. So if the business might have already heard about Climate Champions, but might not know where to get the info, once they're done with the Energy Smart assessment, the energy advisors will hand them that flyer so that they have some clear next steps. We also share regular social media and GovDelivery email newsletters that detail the program. We have a city webpage dedicated to this, and updates go out in that quarterly Park Perspective newsletter. And I have also done some cold calling and direct outreach to businesses as well. So here is one case study of a business who recently undertook a lighting upgrade. So this is for a 65,000 square foot building The estimated total project cost was about $25,000. The estimated rebate amount from the utility that Energy Smart estimated was a little over $10,000. Their Climate Champions pre-approval rate was $3,500 because they received that benchmarking ordinance compliance rate. And so the adjusted estimated project cost was just over $11,000. And so you can see how the combination of these utility rebates as well as the Climate Champions rebate really brings down the cost of these projects. And of course, there's the additional estimated annual cost savings, $9,000, and the high estimated annual energy savings and annual CO2 savings. I also wanted to share this quote from the owner of Minnetonka Park Mall, which is a small strip mall located in St. Louis Park that is home to Nelson's Deli. The owner participated in both Climate Champions to replace the HVAC system at Nelson's and in solar Sundown. So this is a view of their solar panels that they also received a cost share for under a similar program that we rolled out this year. So she shared, "I'm deeply concerned about our worsening climate crisis. When I read about the City of St. Louis Park's Climate Champions program and the resources and support they were providing, I jumped at the chance to have access to their knowledge and expertise to make some environmentally positive improvements at my commercial property. With the help of rebates and grants either provided by the City of St. Louis Park or other organizations that they referred me to, I was able to install a high efficiency rooftop unit and 102 solar panels, reducing costs for my tenants as well as benefiting the environment." And some learnings that we have discovered over the past year is to try to reach businesses when they have just moved in to the space, or they might have been already considering some different upgrades. So an example would be Kenwood Gymnastics recently moved into the roller garden space in St. Louis Park. So obviously there needs to be some changes to convert from a roller rink to a gymnastics gym. And so we made sure to connect with them through some of our business specialists at the city to make sure they knew about the resources available. Also run into some challenges, as I mentioned, was with navigating property owner and tenant relationships. So the most common response is that tenants don't own the building and don't have control of equipment improvements and only sometimes pay the energy bill. We've also made sure to closely monitor and follow up with businesses and offer support to move them forward. As I mentioned, they might not be ready right at this moment, but they'll still be eligible for the cost share next year. And then we've also informed contractors so they can advertise. And we've had similar success with that Solar Sundown cost share program. So that contractors, if they might be contacted by business in St. Louis Park and might not know about the Climate Champions program, the contractor can use our rebate as another advertising tool. And here's a look at some of our plans for 2022. We hope to send out some co-branded emails with Excel and Centerpoint, share some case studies of those initial climate champions, like the quote I just shared at the Minnetonka Park Mall, host some additional presentations or events with the St. Louis Park Business Council, and possibly conduct a business blitz. Some communities have done this already and had some success, like Winona, with some partners like Partners in Energy and Clean Energy Resource Teams. So we're hoping to do that perhaps in the spring with members of our Environment and Sustainability Commission. And to wrap it up here, I wanted to just quickly share 2 slides about some of our other programs for businesses. I've mentioned this briefly already, but with Solar Sundown, property owners can get 4 or 6% back on rooftop solar installation costs in 2021. And so we've had a lot of success with this program, especially informing solar contractors about it. And then they have been able to use it as a marketing tool as well for residents and businesses in St. Louis Park. And then finally, we just rolled out our Building Operations Champion Cost Share Program, which is cost share funds for Building Operator Certification or BOC training. And this training for commercial, industrial, and multifamily building employees focuses on efficient building operations, saving owners money, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So we're really just starting to promote that as well, along with Climate Champions. And that is where I'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Awesome. As you can see, some really a lot of work went into this, a lot of thinking, a lot of planning. Questions. And of course, you probably didn't see because you were on the call, you're presenting, but I had to do a little shout out to Roller Garden with my crying face, because for people who don't know me, that was my second home. So very sad about Roller Garden. I just noticed recently the dino on the wall on the door is gone.
Right. We feel similarly, and I think a lot of people in St. Louis Park did too. It was very sad to see it go. So I do see some questions in the chat about where we get our window clings. That is something we coordinated with our communications department. I'm not sure, as you mentioned about a sustainable source. We just used a local printing company. So not sure about the other material details there.
And then there's another one about, do you have an overall CO2 reduction update?
That would be, so we do track it. I don't have that off the top of my head, but that is something we do plan on giving an update to council about. And we're also planning on, hopefully in the next year, revealing a public facing dashboard about our programs and our impact. So that is something we will be sharing, and we are collecting it in the application.
Great. How many climate champions do you currently have?
So officially, we just have one, and that is the Minnetonka Park Mall owner and Nelson's Deli. So seven businesses have applied for the cost share, but only one person has submitted their utility rebate. And so I think a lot of that is kind of near the end of the year, is from what I've heard from contractors, is that's when they get the rebates from Centerpoint and Excel. So then it's a matter of them getting those rebates, and then they have to send the rebates to us. So I think we're going to start to see a lot come in here near the end of the year, or early next year, when they get those rebates back from the utility.
How are your refund programs funded?
Yes, so I might hand this question over to Emily, our sustainability manager, because she handles more of the budget side of the program and a lot of the technical details around that.
Sure. Thanks, Annie. Thanks for the question. In 2021, our cost share funds all came from a portion of our development fund. So our community development staff was kind enough to share the small pot of money that they had, especially because a lot of these funds were going to businesses, of course. But for 2021, we're really excited to announce the creation of a whole new fund called the Climate Investment Fund, which is solely going to be dedicated to all of these types of cost share programs that we're going to be rolling out. These and a few more that we have coming in 2022. So I may have said 2021. It was passed officially this week at the budget. However, it will be implemented in 2022. Sorry. So yeah, there's about $400,000 for cost share funds. And I think the best feature of that is that it can roll over from year to year, because as we all know, these projects don't necessarily get done in a 12-month time period. And so to be constrained by the fiscal year is really unfortunate, especially when you're dealing with a massive, construction project. Even an air handling unit can take a while. So we're excited so that any funds we don't use this year will roll over into next year, and then we can continue to replenish it, depending on the direction council wants to take at the end of when we look at our fund balance later this year.
Great. And then another question is, what is your goal for 2022?
So I think we really thought about 2021 as our pilot year and just kind of wanted to gauge the interests in the community. So I don't think, Emily, sorry, do we have an official goal for 2022? Or again, I think it's a lot of just building on where the interest is and just kind of seeing what kind of results we can get into the next year.
Sure. I mean, officially, our goal is the midterm climate action plan goals for retrofitting businesses by 2030, we chunk out into an annual goal. And so it's something like 20 businesses that need to be retrofit this year. And so given the trends, that might be a big lift, but we're hoping, of course, we're going to keep pounding the pavement and trying to hit that number.
All right. Well, I'm going to cut off questions right now just because we want to make sure we have time for all the other presenters. So, Kristen, what's the update on Stillwater? Y'all good to go for slides? What's happening?
I have slides up and ready, Wendy.
Perfect. Let's bring Wendy back up.
All right.
I already did her intro, so I won't do that again. But Wendy from Stillwater, Kristen, you're going to run the slides and take it away, Wendy.
All right. Excellent. Okay, so just to establish again, I'm Wendy Gorski. I'm the lead for the Green Business Project at Sustainable Stillwater MN. And this is all about the Greater Stillwater Area Green Business Directory, where consumers can find businesses with good products and practices that contribute to the well-being of our community. Green businesses are rewarded with free advertising and promotion, and that's the biggest incentive for them to actually be a part of this project. It's so exciting to see how happy people are when they get accepted. Some of them even become our instant evangelists. We got our slides back here yet?
Sorry, I was trying to make it full screen, but it doesn't want to allow me to do that. So here we are.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. Anyway, let me give you the history, which I think Diana already went over, but next slide. Great. In July 2019, as Diana said, we held a community forum hosted by Don Schuld and Diana. Conservation Minnesota's Kelly Cervantes was also there. The purpose of the forum was to brainstorm what we could do as a city to become more sustainable, especially using clean energy. Okay, next slide. There were plenty of suggestions. One thing you can count on is if you hold a forum in Stillwater, you get lots of suggestions. People have such great ideas. And one of them that came up was, how about doing an awards for local sustainable businesses? So next slide. So we ran with it. It turns out that the genius of this idea is that the interests of the business community drive a lot of the decision making in Stillwater. Tourism is a huge part of the local economy. Next slide. City councilors listen to businesses. And so we decided that a green business directory and awards could get people thinking about sustainability. So in 2020, we started putting it together. Next slide. But we had our work cut out for us. I basically had to research what is a green business directory and who has them. And I made calls all over the country. I talked to administrators in Montgomery County, Maryland, Sitka, Alaska, and San Luis Obispo, California. After I got all my research done, I wrote a business plan, and we allied with other nonprofits and local government agencies that offer sustainability services, like Washington County Biz Recycling. We applied for grants, $20,000 in grants, and much to my surprise, we actually got them. We also licensed application criteria from Green America, a certification nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. And finally, we had to create branding and the website. Next slide. Originally, we planned to launch in the summer of 2020, but due to the pandemic, it was delayed until the summer of 2021. And that's the only silver lining from this pandemic that we saw, because we did get more time to improve our directory's infrastructure. We got more time to think about usability issues, and we started to handpick companies that we knew were green and would probably pass our application process. So next slide. And so here is the result of all our work. Greenstillwater.org is a searchable directory that lets consumers easily find green businesses that serve Washington County and the St. Croix Valley. So for instance, if you search for retail stores, you'll see a variety of them that sell fair trade, organic, or natural goods. Next slide. As of today, we have 60 companies in the directory. Our newest are here, you can see on the screen. It's a hair salon, 2 retail stores, a videographer, an office rental space, and a yoga studio. Next slide. We have 40 specialized industry categories from architects to water purification. And everyone who logs in here can see all the questions that we ask. Every part of our application is public and transparent and can be viewed in advance by the companies as well. Next slide. For example, this is the criteria for companies, businesses that make clothing or fabric. You can see we ask things like, if you can read that, where do you source your fabrics? What are the labor commitments, for instance, on your contracts and things like that. Next slide. Yeah. All businesses, no matter what their category, also answer general questions that apply to everyone. They have to get 60% of these right or explain why they don't apply. The sections start with community engagement. For example, do they engage in charitable giving? Next slide. Policy and employee engagement. They're asked if they provide their workers with a living wage. That's really important. Or have social responsibility mission statements on their website. Next slide. This section is all about saving energy. For example, do they use LEDs or turn off outdoor lights at night? Yeah, next slide after energy. Great. Other sections are, we're going to just step through these. Hazardous materials management. Next slide. Office practices. Next slide. Recycling. Next slide. And you're probably wondering, how do all these questions apply to all the companies? Well, they don't. Applicants can mark NA if something on, if a question does not apply. And if a company rents a space, for instance, it's not going to have any control over its stormwater pollution. So if they explain the NAs, they will get credit for them on the final score. And next slide. There's transportation questions. And next slide, water usage questions. And finally, next slide. So there are 3 qualification levels once their application is graded. All the awards get a profile in the directory, bronze, silver, and gold, but only the silver and gold ones get social media promotion. I'll get to that in a second. Also, the higher their award, the higher they rank in search results, which is really cool. So gold members will always come up first. Next slide. Okay, the award box is delivered in person by one of our team members. It includes a framed plaque and a proud member of the directory window sign and a copy of their report card. Next slide. This is an example of a profile page on the directory. It has information about the company, where they're located, their report card, and their social media feed that you can see in the right margin there. And next slide. The profile also includes photos and videos. Lake & Company put together a little video for us, which is on the next slide. Maybe we can play that. Can you run that? Nope. Okay. Oh, too bad. Anyway, that was a really charming celebration of the award. Next slide then. Okay, so let's take a look at their report card. These are published on their profiles, and I know a lot of directories all around the country don't do this, but we believe that consumers make better choices when they have a lot more information. So when companies apply, they actually have to check a box saying that they realize their results will be public before they even fill out the application. Okay, next slide. The report card shows what they got right, as you can see here in green, and what they didn't. Next slide. We also list what they need to do to improve. The profile listing is good for 3 years, so hopefully in that time, they'll fix the things that they got wrong before they renew. And next slide. As a contractor, as we're contractors with Washington County Biz Recycling, so we promote their free waste audits and their business grants. But there are plenty of other services out there. In fact, our previous speaker mentioned Energy Smart that are free to businesses that we also have on our information pages. Next slide. And this is the fun part. Our gold and silver companies are rewarded with social media promotion. Increasingly, as you probably know, shoppers are willing to pay more for products and services that are sustainable. So we help businesses reach that audience. Next slide. Our social media includes Instagram, where we have more than 700 followers. Next slide. And Twitter and Facebook. Next slide. And the news section of the Green Business Directory itself is where we also publicize our award winners. And next slide. And finally, there are rotating ads for our silver and gold members on our information pages. This is our team page. I am a full-time volunteer, but Kelsey, Leslie, and Sophie are contractors. And Kelsey is our membership manager, and she does all the grading of the report cards. And she's also our visual media creator and our website admin. So as you can see, this is like a full-time job for her. Leslie and Sophie are outreach ambassadors who get businesses to join and help them to apply. And then we also have other volunteers, Don Schultz, Nancy Leiner, and Mike Leiner. And next slide. Now for our back-end internal management, we use Google Drive, which is free to nonprofits. And we're always looking where we can save money. Next slide. We also store all our graphics, flyers, metrics, branding properties, etc. on Google Drive. Next slide. And these are examples of the print materials that Kelsey designed. This includes a postcard campaign that went out to all 500 members of the Stillwater Area Chamber of Commerce. And next slide. 100 members is our goal, and we will hopefully achieve that next year. At that point, we will launch a big publicity campaign to the public to try to get them to use this directory. Because right now, it's out there, but we're not doing any kind of big advertising pitch to get people to use it yet until we get to 100 members. We're halfway there, as you can see. And next slide. Finally here, these are a couple of slides with quotes from some of our members like Anderson Corporation. And when we read these quotes, because we did a survey of our members, we just felt so good because we could see how they were waiting for something like this to appear in their community so they could get recognition. And next slide. So this is why we have so many, we're building evangelists out there to do this work for us, which is really, really satisfying. And that's it. greenstillwater.org. I hope you guys will go and see what it looks like. and it's evolving. You know, we're actually figuring things out as we go along. But it's really exciting and fun, and we feel like we're making an impact in the community this way. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's so great. You have such great graphics and pictures. It's very visual. I love that. Questions? I think Kelsey answered some in the,
Yeah.
I guess one question is, you know, are you franchising to make this scalable in the Valley?
That's a good question, because I've been thinking about writing a kind of how-to instruction for other towns. Lake Elmo recently approached us and said, well, we want to do this too. And I said, well, actually, you're so close. Why don't you just be part of ours right now? But my plan over the winter is to write a white paper that lists the steps so cities can just cut to the chase and put one together for themselves. You know, nonprofits, I imagine there must be sustainable Stillwater type organizations. You know, there's one in Hudson that could take on this kind of a thing if they get grants. And, you know, one question nobody has asked me much, but it's like, going forward, what are we going to do about keeping it funded? And that is also going to be really on the table for us. We're not really sure. We don't necessarily want to charge a membership fee. We don't want to discourage any good businesses from being in the directory. So for the moment, we're using the grants that we have to continue to reach out. We need a coordinator for our social media. We'd like to be able to approach every business every week and say, what have you got going that's sustainable that we can write about? You know, what are your new products that people might like to buy? So we have that. We have the possibility of publishing a green business directory that takes advertising.
Yeah.
A printed version, like a
Sure.
You know, green yellow pages. So we have maybe an application fee. There's all sorts of ideas on the table because we don't want to be applying for grants for the rest of our lives. But we're going to have to figure out something.
Right. Well, and I think I think I understand not wanting to charge businesses, but when you think about the advertising that they're getting, that's pretty incredible. Even a scalable fee based on the size of the company or something, you know, they pay a lot of money for advertising. So, you know, $50, $100, $250 is not that much for the advertising that they're getting, which is very, very positive and targeted. So, super cool. And as you're thinking about and talking about doing that white paper, I've been wanting to do a blog about your work. And so we should collaborate so I can help kind of get that story out there to more cities. So if, you know, you do your piece and I can maybe put something together and we can get it in the Green Step City newsletter or something. So we'll talk about that for sure.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have our last speaker. We have two more speakers still.
And thank you, Kristen, for saving the day.
No problem, Wendy. I'm glad it ended up working out.
And we're a few minutes behind, but that's okay because we've had kind of question and answer along the way, so I think we're in good shape. But I'm super excited to introduce my friend, Patrick Hanlon, and I'm just going to say it out loud, the new mayor of the city of Hopkins. Very exciting, and soon to be a new father, like so many exciting things going on in Patrick's life. But Patrick and I'm trying to remember what year we started having a conversation. We met about dry cleaning stuff and it wasn't quite CERT's thing. And then we had a talk in City Hall and you were doing this program and I was like, are you telling the stories? These are really good stories. And I said, well, we could help with that. And then that kind of began this relationship where I actually helped coordinate the review of the applications for the Green Cost Share program. And so we have a more formal relationship, but we've known each other for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And happy to have you here. The Green Cost Share program is an incredible model. A lot of other smaller cities in Minnesota might not be able to do it to its fullest extent, but as we saw just with St. Louis Park, I think cities can take little pieces and parts and scale it to their community. But I want to turn it over to Patrick to talk about the Green Cost Share program, which changes and grows every year.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Diana, and thank you everyone for having me. Yeah, it's been really great to see some of these other presentations and things going on in other towns to pull ideas and learn from what other cities are doing here. I'm going to see if I can share my screen, if I can figure this out.
Are you new to Teams, Patrick?
No.
Okay.
Taking a second here. All right, did that work?
Good.
Okay. All right, so my name is Patrick Hanlon. I am the Director of Environmental Programs at the City of Minneapolis. Just going to go over today Green Cost Share overview, the Green Cost Share reinvestment concept that we have, some of the results that we've had with the program. I'll give you a few program examples and then just talk about Cost Share 2022. And as Diana mentioned, you know, what we're looking at, how we tweak the program. Every year we look at where our deficiencies and where we might be weak and how we can change the program going forward. So the Green Cost Share program, like some of the other programs that were mentioned, St. Louis Park, very similar to St. Louis Park. It's a grant program designed to meet people where they are and people and organizations where they are in overcoming their financial challenges. It's a program that's focused on environmental justice first, on equity first. We are results and data driven. So I mentioned we look at our program results every year and we try to tweak the program to make sure that we make the most use of those public dollars to be the most effective that we can. Partnerships, nothing can be done alone. Many of you mentioned a lot of the partners that we work with as well. It's, you know, this issue of climate change or pollution reduction is just bigger than any one organization. So we really rely on partnerships, state, federal, local partnerships to get things done. So our Green Cost Share paradigm for change is we take a charge. I saw a lot of people mention the funding. We charge a portion of the social cost of pollution. We reinvest those fees back in solutions to reduce pollution, whether it be criteria pollution or CO2. And we use that model to accelerate change. So we have, I'm going to start with the fees. I know that's not the fun part. We'll get into the program, but so we base our fees on the externality costs to our community. We look at, you know, part of the issue of climate change and pollution reduction is not only a moral one, but a real financial challenge that people have. It's a real financial challenge because our economics don't factor in the costs of our pollution. So we base our externality costs based on the Public Utility Commission estimates of the social cost of pollution for both criteria pollution and CO2. We've also looked at the federal social cost of pollution, namely with CO2. We look at pollution that it's not equal. The externality costs of pollution are 7 times higher in an urban area. And if you think of that reasonably, if you were to emit a ton of pollution in a heavily populated area, that's going to be impacting a lot more people than if it were in a greater Minnesota area. And then looking at CO2 as a pollutant, one of the fees that we charge is a 0.5% franchise fee, and that's actually a tool that's available in many cities across Minnesota, a 0.5% franchise fee that was dedicated towards climate action. And we found that that's kind of the key in working with some of our, you know, talking with some of the business associations, neighborhood associations, is really being intentional. You know, people aren't big fans of fees, but when you can promise them and work with them to know that those fees are going to be reinvested back into resources that will be available to them and to the community to address issues that they have, people are much more willing to accept fees, or at least not be as combative against them. Diana mentioned the dry cleaning. So this whole concept started with dry cleaners. We had 0 funding for this work. So I think sometimes, you know, where we're at now, we've been doing this for about 10 years, you know, and sometimes people say, well, it'd be nice if you had a lot of money. Like, your program, but we just don't have a lot of money. We had zero funding. And so we went forward with this concept of using some of the fees that we use for a regulatory purpose to be able to use some of those fees to provide back to businesses. And we started with dry cleaners. And over the course of 6 years, we worked with all of our dry cleaners in Minneapolis to provide matching funds. We worked with all of our partners, which I'll name in a little bit, to be the first city in the country to eliminate PERC in all of our dry cleaners. And there were a number of cities that had tried that on a regulatory, from a regulatory angle, and we came at it from a collaborative angle and a partnership angle, and we were the first city to be able to get all of those dry cleaners to switch away from PERC. So we've moved that model into pollution reduction. As you can see on that chart on the lower left-hand corner, that dry cleaner was back in 2013 when we used to have 1 or 3 projects a year into 2015, and the program is just growing exponentially. In 2022, I expect we'll be well over having worked with 1,000 businesses, nonprofits, multifamily across our city. So it used to be the Green Business Cost Share Program. Now it is just the Green Cost Share Program because we work with all property types across Minneapolis. And this is probably an old number. I think that the numbers are probably higher than this based on the projects that we've gotten done this year, but an estimated $60 million in lifetime energy savings. So this is not only just a pollution reduction program, but it is an economic program that we are helping people in our city save money and be more resilient. It's we like to try to use social math in when we're talking about our results. So it's the equivalent of around 4,900 average single family homes in terms of energy use, total energy use, and about 14,500 metric tons of carbon reduction. And that's the equivalent of removing 3,000 cars off of our roads. So I mentioned equity. We try to focus our program equity first. Is we have higher percentage matches. We have higher caps on projects that meet equity criteria. Our friends over at CERTS, at Clean Energy Resource Teams, they help us do some of the prioritizing of our projects. They put together panels, and these projects that are in green zones or meet affordability criteria, they get higher marks and higher priority in funding. And so we have 2 areas, one in North Minneapolis, one in South Minneapolis, called green zones. These are areas that if you look at historical redlining, lease covenants that drove people to certain areas of housing, air quality burdens, racial disparities, they overlap in these 2 areas. And so these are areas that had historical and intentional underinvestment for decades. And so we are being one small program where we are prioritizing intentional investment back into these communities. And then another program that we do is naturally occurring affordable housing, the 4D program. So when people sign up for that program with their properties and they assign 10 years of affordability to the property, we come in with a 70% match on energy efficiency upgrades. And so the owners of those properties are able to upgrade their properties and then pass those savings on to their tenants. And then we are always looking at funnels that we can have for low-income properties, the Lead and Healthy Homes program, where we deal with predominantly low-income families, and then low-income home ownership programs that we have through our CPED program. And where we use any program that already has income verification of affordability, we'll use those programs to provide additional incentives. So here's our environmental justice. We take data-driven results seriously, and so we're always tracking at how well we're getting into with our environmental justice projects. If you were to take just a general program across the city, which is where we started, and we noticed we didn't have a lot of properties in these areas, it's around 20% of the projects. And so now we find that we have about 61% of our funding goes to these environmental justice projects. And then again, doing some of that social math tracking off to the left there of the results that we get on the are getting on the program. The Green Cost Share program up on the right, there's a link to the Justice 40. That's a federal standard to get 40% of funding going to for racial equity investment, and we meet those standards with this program. And then I also put a link on there as we were just recognized as being a What Works Cities. It's a Bloomberg initiative in rating cities and looking at how our results and data-driven approach that we use for environmental justice and recognizing that. I mentioned partnership. We can't get any of this work done without good partnership. CERTS is a great partner. Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, Energy Smart Program, I saw them mentioned. MnTAP, I know was on today. Excel, the utilities, our business associations, neighborhood associations. We actually had neighborhood associations be interested in projects in their community and do fundraising to help the businesses get some of their projects done. And so those were really cool projects to be part of. Center for Energy and Environment are great folks to help out on energy projects. The solar developers, the contractors themselves, and doing the outreach. They're actually far better at doing outreach than the city or government agencies are. Obviously, we do a lot around outreach, but they're just very good at when we put out the incentives to be able to get that message out to their customers. Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, Minnesota Department of Health, and looking at some of the impacts of pollution reduction and impacts on health for workers and community, environmental initiative, and helping with some of the administrative pieces and also with funding, places like the Department of Commerce and just the incentive programs that they come out with. And then, of course, the biggest partner of all, as all of you are mentioning, is the businesses, the nonprofits, the people who are investing their own money in these projects to make them happen. They are the biggest partner of this work. So here's our, oh, sorry, I took a screenshot of that this morning. I didn't realize that happened. So this is our match for 2022. We have Rebuild Resilient, which Diana McEwen can, that's her intellectual property she has let us use. She coined that phrase. But it's looking at the areas of unrest. So in those areas that have been recognized as damaged in the unrest from last year, we have a 40% match up to $40,000 in solar energy. It's a 40 kilowatt hour per kilowatt hour up to $50,000. Environmental justice rates, I mentioned those two areas of North Minneapolis and South Minneapolis. It's a 30% match up to 30,000, and you can see some of the kilowatt hour. And then we're off to the right there. We're trying to get larger projects in Minneapolis. So we have a larger, I'm sorry, that's not what that is. That's our innovative project. So that's any kind of innovative project that we have for pollution reduction, ground source heat pumps, electrification of diesel, excavators, those types of projects. We have a 45% match up to $100,000. And then, of course, this program is available across the city. So we have a 20% match up to $20,000 as a base rate. And then you can see the kilowatt hour up to 50,000 across the city. And yeah, we are trying to look at how we can incentivize larger projects, larger solar projects, because the solar rewards program is really getting folks focused on that 40 kW. So we're trying to come up with incentive programs that get people focusing on the 100 kW and larger systems. I'm just going to run through and let me know how I'm doing on time here because I haven't timed this out. So you can cut me off at any point. I'm just going to run through some of the examples of I mentioned the 4D program. This is up to on the left-hand corner, a picture of the property, and then it has some of the energy savings that we got with that project and the number of low-income qualified housing units. We had this year alone, we had 1,776 low-income qualified housing units that are benefiting from these savings. This is a small business project. We just put this one in there because it's a super small project, but if we can, and it's also innovative in that they did a deep fryer and refrigeration, which was unique to have a deep fryer, but just we do very small projects as well. And again, that's an equity focused project in a BIPOC community, high percentage BIPOC community. Nonprofit, again, you look at the lower right-hand corner, 380 income qualified houses. RS Eden has been a great partner to work with in focusing on low income units and getting energy efficiency savings there. These are just examples of some of the other projects. We have, small business projects, nonprofit, Edison High School. I think we did a couple arrays on this one where we assisted with some of the funding. And this was obviously a large solar array that we worked with. Stone Arch Apartments, again, 93 income qualified units on that project on the lower right corner. This is an example of I mentioned dry cleaners. We are going to be now working in getting all of our auto body shops switched over to low VOC paint emissions so that it'd be safer work environments for the workers, but then also lower emissions out in the community. And we do a lot of testing around that too, to test within the facility and then test outside the facility after we do these projects. I mentioned electric excavators. This is a great project in North Minneapolis with Atomic Recycling, where we work to get their excavators assisted to get some of their excavators changed out to all electric. And that has pollution reduction and CO2 reduction, so we love that project. This is an example of another 4D energy efficiency project. It's just a 2-unit housing unit, so down to very personal and smaller projects as well. This is a small business energy efficiency project, again, BIPOC focused, BIPOC owned, nonprofit, Shiloh Temple. They've done some great solar work. They also did some great energy efficiency work last year. These are just projects from in the last year here. Here's some another commercial project. Sorry, I didn't realize I had so many examples of projects. I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly here. Cristo Rey Jesuit School, they do a lot of great training with young adults. We were happy to be part of that project, and that they did a solar array on that project. And so every one of these projects we track the amount of energy production savings, and then the metric tons of carbon emissions reduced. And we track all of this information through smart sheets. And then we do have a public facing dashboard that we track it, or that we display it. This is a
I don't know how many
project
you have left, but I want to make sure we have enough time for MnTAP. So
okay, cool. MnTAP was part of this project as well. Environmental initiative and the lift garages, and looking at pollution reduction from low income. And I'm just about done here. So areas that we look at where we have deficiencies and we want to drive programs. One area is in green careers. We noticed we were doing a lot of work out in environmental justice communities, and that the workers that were part of those projects did not represent the community. And so this is, we have started a program in partnering with Midwest Renewable Energy Association, Summit Academy, McGeezy, Excel Energy, Center for Energy and Environment, Renewable Energy Partnership, our own community planning and economic development, and solar developers in conducting accredited training for young adults in energy efficiency and solar, and then partnering with a lot of the contractors that we work with on these projects to get young adults placed on those sites, and young adults from high percentage BIPOC communities. So that is all I had. Thank you for letting me whip through that.
Thank you. I mean, it's so much great stuff. Appreciate it. Let's hold questions. I want to make sure that MnTAP gets their time in. So we'll have, thank you, Patrick. We'll have MnTAP come in, and then we'll do questions for the last, 5 or 7 minutes.
Thanks, Diana. Sorry. So this is Dragonfly. He's decided to simultaneously lie on both my mouse and my keyboard. So
we can't see you.
Oh, okay. That's fine. There was a cat involved. It's probably his fault. All right, I'm just gonna, now that he's been moved, I'm just gonna try and screen share and pull up.
You can see her.
These slides.
That's funny. I can't see her. That's weird.
I can't either. Interesting.
Can y'all see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's all that matters anyway.
So Gabrielle from MnTAP, take it over.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm just going to run through this real quick. But yeah, my name's Gabrielle Martin. I'm an associate engineer at MnTAP, and I'm just going to talk a bit about the program today. So let's get started. Yeah, so what's MnTAP? It's the Minnesota Technical Assistance Program. We've been around since 1984, and we provide confidential, no-cost engineering help to Minnesota businesses. We're also non-regulatory, which means if people have issues with permitting that they want to work on, we don't have to report anything we see or find. We can just help and not tell, and it's great. So what do? We focus on preventing or optimizing the use of resources. We like to work on water reduction, energy reduction, limit the amount of chemicals used or help find safer alternatives to different ones, and then also reduce the amount of waste that people create in their processes. Probably our biggest selling point is that all of these resources cost businesses a lot of money. And so you cut down on how many resources you use. You also save more money, which everybody loves. We primarily focus on source reduction because it's one of the most efficient ways of decreasing commerce's effect on the planet. That's because if you look at the life cycle of a product, the farther down the supply chain you go, the more energy and resources are put in with each step. So if we consider a loaf of bread, for example, let's say I go and I buy a loaf of bread at the grocery store. Well, maybe a few loaves were damaged during stocking, right? And we go back to packaging. Maybe there was an equipment malfunction and 50 loaves had to be thrown out there. And then we go back to processing and maybe there was an issue with the recipe and an entire batch had to be thrown away. Now, if we can make the processing more efficient at the beginning, then that means not only the loaf of bread that I buy less consumptive and uses fewer resources, but also every loaf of bread that's lost along the way to quality assurance and different incidents, those also contribute a little bit less to climate change. Now, I mean, this is a bit of an exaggeration for one loaf of bread, but there are 5.6 million Minnesotans roughly. And if we look at all the bread that all of us buys in a year, we start to see a decent impact. So where do we work? All throughout the state. We'll work with manufacturing facilities, food processing. We've done a couple projects with wastewater treatment plants. We work in government buildings, power plants, schools. We'll work with anyone who wants to work with us. All businesses have opportunities to reduce their resource consumption, and all businesses can save money by doing that. We are based in the metro, so you'll see we've done a lot of work specifically around there. This map, I think, covers every location we visited from 2015 to 2019. But if you are in the state of Minnesota, we will come to you if you want us there. We will show up. We will figure it out. So no worries if you're rural or if you're in the far northwest corner. We'll make it work. So how do we help? Well, we have three main ways that we typically help out different facilities. The primary way is through no-cost site assessments. So one or two of our full-time staff members will go out to a facility and work with the employees there to figure out what areas of reduction exist and align with the business's priorities. So maybe people are specifically looking for projects that don't require a lot of capital, or something that's pretty common in, say, metals manufacturing right now. People feel like they don't have enough workers, so they might be looking for ways to automate things, but do it and use less electricity, right? So we'll go out, we'll work with them to figure out what their priorities are, and then we'll go and research different options for them and help put a number on how much the implementation might cost and how much money they can expect to save. Now, if there's a project people want to focus on that's a bit more intensive, we will often recommend our intern program. Now, we do ask for a small cost share for our interns, $3,000 for a summer, but that does include 500 hours of intern work plus 80 to 100 hours of staff support. So if you're looking at just paying the intern, that comes out to about $6 an hour and doesn't even count paying the staff. So it's a pretty decent deal. And so, the intern works at the facility and then staff checks in regularly to provide guidance and keep the project on task. I've got a couple pictures of our interns here. We like to put them up on slides because they're just so photogenic. They're great. Then the other thing we'll do with businesses is if they have a pre-existing green team, we'll join in on that, go to the regular meetings and support however we can. It's very similar to how we do our site assessments, but it's just over a longer term. And then for any of our services, we always provide follow-up through to implementation at no cost to just try and help drive home the projects in any way we can. So I'm actually going to talk very briefly about the project that the young man on the lower right of the slide did with the red shirt. His name was Nick. He was one of my interns last year, and he worked at the National Sports Center. Now, I don't know how many of you may have been to the National Sports Center. It's up in Blaine. It's huge. They have, I think, over 50 soccer fields, an 18-hole golf course, a dormitory, 2 or 3 other buildings, and 8 ice skating rinks. And all this uses a lot of water, right? So they wanted to focus on water conservation for their project. Now, most of what they use is well water to irrigate the golf course, but they also use over 8 million gallons of city water per year. And also 89% of that just goes to the 8 ice rinks, right? So we really focus in on the ice rinks and how we could reduce water usage there. And that's because all the water that is used to make ice on ice rinks, it's typically heated and then it's salted. And then once it's laid down in resurfacing, it has to be recooled by the building's like AC system, right? So they were looking for 2 kinds of solutions. They wanted ones that were pretty quick and could be implemented easily for immediate savings. But then they also have this huge like capital investment plan coming up for 2023. And so they were also interested in exploring technologies that maybe were a bit more expensive, but long-term would be worth it, right? So the first thing we focused in on is, okay, what are the processes for the ice rinks that use water? So there's 2 main ones. One is refilling Zambonis, and the other one is washing them down, all right? And so the National Sports Center was using this really simple ball valve right here to do both of those, and a 65 gallon per minute hose. So what would happen is the operators would go to fill up their Zambonis, and then they would walk away to try and do other work because they didn't want to just stand around and wait on it because that felt wasteful. But then it would fill up in a short enough amount of time that it would often begin to overflow while they were doing their other work. And then the other side of the coin is that 65 gallons per minute for a washdown procedure is really, really high and kind of unnecessary. So Nick designed this beautiful plumbing retrofit that they could implement. And he worked with the maintenance manager to design this and split the 2 processes into 2 halves. So on the left would be the side that would be used for refilling the Zambonis, and there was a timer installed. So the operators would be able to fill up the Zams, walk away, do their work, and not have to worry about it overflowing. And then on the right side, there would be a pressure reducer for washdown and also a smaller hose to conserve water on that side. So the operators loved it because it made their job easier. Maintenance loved it because this can be made with commonly purchased parts that aren't too expensive. And then management really got on board because this simple change would save them almost 900,000 gallons of water per year, 11,000 pounds of salt, 7,400 therms, and a little over $9,000 a year, and would pay back in 7 months. So this was awesome, an awesome idea on Nick's part, and really checked off their box of something they could do quickly and easily. So then for their longer term project, we looked at recycling all of the water used in the ice rink. So as I mentioned, it's currently heated and salted. And then when resurfacing is done, the snow that comes off of the ice rink is put in a melt pit where it melts and goes straight to sewer. So you're literally flushing these resources down the drain, right? So Nick discovered that there is a technology on the market that eliminates the need for heating and salting the water. So it filters the water, de-aerates it, and stores it for use, right? And so the water can just keep being used on the ice rinks time and time again. And because the water doesn't need to be heated, it would also decrease the load on the rink's refrigeration system. So we estimated that this would save over 4 million gallons of water per year, 57,000 pounds of salt, 36,000 therms, and 155,000 kilowatt hours per year for a total savings of $80,000 per year. Now, this technology is fairly expensive, but because the NSC is a public facility, they have access to certain types of grant funding, and they are looking at trialing this technology in 2023. So this kind of hit what they wanted in terms of long-term options that would also really help decrease the amount of resources they use in their process and also preserve the quality of the ice for the skaters. Now, how does all this tie into Green Step Cities? Well, we have 3 programs that are really relevant to what we're doing here. So the first is our basic tech questions that our technical assistants could fall under or help with, and all of these have to do with resource reduction. We also have a wastewater efficiency cohort that started running this past year and goes through the end of 2022, and it focuses on increasing efficiency and decreasing loading on wastewater systems. So that's going on. It's a super great program run by my colleagues, and it's definitely worth looking into. Then lastly, we also have the materials exchange program, which is a website where businesses can list materials they don't want and either sell them cheaply or give them away to other people who can use them in their facilities to kind of discourage landfilling. Also, the last thing that's not listed here, we are recruiting companies for our 2022 intern program right now. So if you know anyone who might be interested, just send them on over. We'll take them. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've got my contact information and our website. You can just Google MnTAP, or it's mntap.mn.edu. So yeah, that's it for me. Any questions?
Thank you, Gabrielle. So we'll open it up for questions for Gabrielle and Patrick, certainly the other presenters, but we didn't take any questions for those two last presenters. So if folks have questions.
I have a question. I have a question. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, great. You guys do amazing work. You are on our resource page on the Green Business Directory as, you know, places to go for some help. And I'm wondering if you have any kind of listing of all of the companies that you've done audits for. Is that private information or is that public information? Because we think we might be able to approach those companies now because they're more sustainable and get them into the directory and get the word out about how fantastic they are.
So it's a bit of a mix of both. As I mentioned, we are confidential. So by default, it is private information. Now, all the companies we work with for intern programs, they have to agree for that to be public information. And then for our different projects, we'll often request, hey, can we write a case story about you that's public? Can we do something that's public, right? And I think most people would be willing to release that information, but then sometimes when the work is around, say, toxic reduction, people are a bit more cagey about releasing their names. So I think it really depends on who you want to talk to. If there's a particular industry that you have in mind, then we can maybe go back and say, hey, we've got this opportunity. Are you interested? And ask that way, but we cannot generally just give you that information.
Okay, well, I'll get in touch with you then. If we can get your, could you give us your email address?
Yeah, I'll pop that into the chat right now.
Great, thank you.
Awesome, other questions? For either Patrick or Gabrielle or any of the presenters.
I know my head is spinning with all kinds of ideas, and I'm sure questions will come up for many of you too.
Well, and I want to thank so much all of the presenters. That was a lot of great information and sharing your story and the different approaches you take based on your community. You know, it's super great. Some of the resources, you know, obviously MnTAP, WasteWise, and Energy Smart from the Chamber. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has small business grants and support, obviously. You know, CERTS has done a lot of work over the years with businesses. We're not really doing as much the business blitz, but we are willing to, you know, help a community that wants to do that in their own community because it's pretty time intensive. But we can help guide a community, give them some tips, training, tools, resources to do that in their own community. I always think it's better for community members to door knock on businesses than, you know, some CERTS member from another community to come over and knock on a door. If you're a member of that community and you knock on their door and say, hey, I really, you know, want you to think about being more efficient, being more sustainable, it carries a lot more weight. So here's the actions related to this topic. There's a whole bunch. So again, you know, part of the reason we do this is to help you take credit for the work that you're doing in the Green Step Cities program. So as you prepare this coming spring to turn in your results for the year, make sure you're taking credit for these programs. And of course, really interesting, like the city of Stillwater, this is not the city actually doing it. It's this, volunteer organization doing it. But the city can, I think, help take credit for this work. There's been some collaboration, et cetera. So how lucky are they?
Yeah, that falls under best practice action 25.6.
Yes.
And then we'll just wrap up with next workshops for Green Step Cities. We'll be talking about the B3 program in January and everything that goes into that, and a few others coming up before we take a break in the summer months. But thank you, Diana, for helping to set the agenda and pull together speakers. Thank you to all of our speakers, presenters, for sharing what's going on in your communities or what resources you have available. This was really helpful to get an understanding of, and thank you to everyone else who attended. We will follow up with the meeting recording and slides and contact information and links to resources, so keep an eye out for that later this week.